Okay. And
we live again.
And we are live again. All right, guys. Yeah, so cool. So we've already gone through the intro for the people that are in our program. You didn't have to listen to that. The people that are keen to go into our program, have a look at our website or go into our Facebook page, or you can just see the recording of this or all the other recordings we've done in the webinar, just to get an idea of what we do and how we do it. So once again, from the green room perspective, guys, we started the green room before, or actually just as we went into lockdown, just as an offering to give to people that are in a process of immigration. So obviously we do cater for the people in our program, which is immigrating to the States. And then we do cater for people that are immigrating anywhere else in the world, because once you are immigrating, there is a lot of similarities between immigrating to New Zealand, Australia, or the States. You know, so it is a green room that is for immigrants. So we cover topics from immigrating with pets, relocation, what should you take with you to the States specifically, other areas and stuff is pretty the same. Immigrating, psychology of immigration. Yes, we've had some laughs on some of the webinars, and we encourage you guys to go and look at those. We've had couples on budgets for what you should look at earning in America, just to live comfortably. We've had topics on schooling in America. So we haven't quite covered topics on other countries. So if that you are in the process of immigrating to, be it Australia, be it New Zealand, you know, if you do feel that we have to cover that for you, please let us know. And this is the space for immigrants. So if you want to, if you've got a topic in mind that we haven't covered yet, we would love for you to reach out to us. You can either drop us a mail, or you can just contact us. Our contact numbers, everything is on the Facebook. Or
you've gone off, Len.
Website. Hey? Say again, have I gone off?
You seem to be having a couple of technical difficulties today.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. All right, no, cool. We are ready. We are ready. So today, like any other space that we've been in, we have got a very, very interesting topic today and a very, very interesting panelist. And we hope that this is very, very useful for a lot of people out there, because I didn't know something like this is available. And I do definitely see the need for something like this. So before we move on, I actually want to just read the intro of our next panelist. So it is quite remarkable. It is, you'll find out the reason why I would want to read something like this. Okay. So expat midwife Karen Wilmot has been supporting families around the globe for over a decade in person and online as a virtual midwife. An adventurer, traveler, and entrepreneur, she has worked around the world and countries to find new and challenging ways to improve healthcare for women during pregnancy and birth using online technology. Her book, Giving Birth Abroad, The Essential Guide for Expats Expecting. It's available on Amazon. And it says, provides the roadmap to embrace pregnancy as part of the expat adventure, and is packed with checklists and cheat sheets coupled with practical wisdom for 20 years abroad. Okay, her career has enabled her to work on a diamond mine in South Africa, in a small village in Mexico, in a military hospital in Saudi Arabia, and with the royal family of Oman. This rich diversity of experience has given her a deep insight into the needs of women across countries and cultures, as well as the unique challenges that expats face. So This is Karen's own words, saying, while nothing about pregnancy is different when you are abroad, the differences in culture, language, and lifestyle may be starkly different to your own and may require a massive shift in mindset. Being virtual is the most simple and effective way of connecting with women around the world and enables me to provide ongoing support, guidance, and up-to-date information via my multimedia membership program and bespoke packages. Karen Wilmot, welcome. I think this is an absolute mouthful, but I just thought that gives such a great platform for our attendees and the people listening to this program about what a remarkable woman you are. And I mean, earlier before we started, and we asked Karen where she is currently, and she showed us a horrible picture of where she's working from, and we felt so sorry for her. Maybe we'll ask her later on just to show us the view again, but she's working from Cape Town, and she's pretty much about on the beach. So, I mean, I said to Trevor in the beginning, it's amazing why we didn't think about doing pregnancy online while sitting on the beach. Because it is a simple scenario. I mean, we all could have thought about that, but looking at your background and the skill set that you've built up, Karen, I'm in awe. I'm thinking, wow, what an adventure. Karen, please give us a little bit of insight, a little bit more if you can, on what I've just read.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and it's a real privilege to be here. And you know, it's always interesting when you hear somebody else read your bio, and you kind of think, oh, so thank you. and you know, you mentioned in the beginning when you were talking about Nduku that you help people to live the dream, and I just think that that's so important, and that is essentially what I'm doing. Is I realized a few years ago the kind of life I wanted to live, and the skill set that I have, and I've adapted it accordingly. And luckily, it just really fits in with a huge need that exists because of, I think, the rise in global mobility assignments and the fact that people do want to travel more and are looking further outside of, you know, living in South Africa or living in one country. It's just the way the world works now, where people are being put all over the world. Mm. And when it comes to pregnancy and family, I mean, family is one of our highest values, and it all starts with new babies. And what is that? When you're living the dream, what are you going to do, and how are you going to continue living that dream and feel supported in that journey when you become parents?
Karen, so before we get into that part of it, can I ask you how, I mean, such a broad and colorful background, what got you into midwifery and into that which you do? You know, when was that birthed within you?
As a child, to be honest with you, because my mother was a midwife. So I grew up listening to her stories of, you know, coming home and sharing with me. Even as a child, she'd come home with this glow when she'd been with a woman giving birth. And we spent many of our childhood holidays on my uncle's farm. And if there was ever a farm laborer who went into labor, she would be called and she would go off, and I'd be like dragging on her heels, please take me with, please. And of course she wouldn't let me as a child. So the most experience I got of birthing as a child was on the farm with animals. But certainly that's where the love and the passion came from. So when I finished school, there was no doubt in my mind that that was what I wanted to do.
Sure.
But it has evolved over the years. I mean, I qualified as a nurse and midwife in 1990, so it was a good 30 years ago. And, you know, the one thing about being a nurse is that it really does, it's an amazing skill set. But like any profession, you deepen it as you go along, and you always expanding and you're always learning more. And there's so many variations of it. So while I have been in nursing and specifically in women's health for most of my career, as you say, as I said in my bio, I have generally, I mean, I spent most of my adult life traveling and as an expat and doing contracts in different places like the Diamond Mine, like Saudi Arabia, like Oman. But the last 15 years was where it really cemented itself in the Middle East, and that that was because I went on a 1-year contract to work in a hospital in Oman. It was a fairly small hospital. It was still building the services, and I realized the great need. And while it was obviously built for locals, there were a lot of expats coming to give birth and have their babies there. And that was where I started seeing, oh, wow, you know, this is really challenging when you're an expat and you're flung out of your comfort zone to a completely new medical system. You don't have the support of your family with you. And that was, you know, that's where the seeds were sown, but it's just grown since then into so many more things that I'm sure we'll talk about as we go along.
Yeah, that is very, very interesting. So, and there's so many other questions I want to ask, but I know there's a lot of men that are wanting to know about this, you know. So I've got 2 kids, and I did the thing that I thought was the plan, you know, this is how it works. Everybody just follows what the next person does, you know. So it's for most people in South Africa, the first thing they do is what we did as well. You seek a gynecologist, and from a gynecologist, they tell you what to do. They tell you this is how big your baby is when you go look at them on the scans. And then now all of a sudden you start thinking there's new things coming in, which is midwives. And you're going, hold on, is that a new thing or is that an old thing? You know, is the way I'm following things, is that old? You know, so I think maybe you can touch on that. I mean, give us an idea of when did midwives come in? You know, is it a new thing? I'm going to double load these questions a little bit. So, and your services with that, obviously, as you give us an explanation about midwives, your services in a high-tech world, how does it measure up with a high-tech world in that scenario?
Okay, that is quite a loaded question, and you've covered on a lot of topics. So I'm going to try and keep it as brief as possible and really try and explain the difference. As midwives, it's an ancient profession. It really is. It's been there. But if we go back, traditionally, midwives were just the woman in the village who were the wise woman who would attend women in labor. And then it became a profession, and then it became part of nursing and all of that. If we look at it now, as you say, you know, when your wife was pregnant, the done thing was to go to the gynecologist. So there's been a huge shift, specifically if we're talking about South Africa, to the medical model over the midwife model. And the only difference between what a midwife does and what a gynecologist does is that as midwives, we focus on the physiology of labor and birth and of the woman. And our care is very woman-centered, woman-focused and family-centered. And we look at, we treat that as a very holistically, and we take all aspects of the person's lifestyle and culture and values and beliefs and everything, because we see it as a life event rather than a medical event, which essentially it is, if we take all of the other stuff out. Of course, we have access to the technology, and of course we use it, but we generally will have a relationship with the woman and her partner from early pregnancy right through generally till 6 weeks after the baby is born. And as midwives, we have the training and the skills to do antenatal appointments and facilitate and be with them at the birth, whether that's in a home environment or a hospital environment. But ultimately, we focus on the physiology, and the physiology is all the stuff that's normal, but we are trained in the pathophysiology, so we know enough to be able to recognize it and refer when necessary. A gynecologist is generally an obstetrician and a gynecologist. So while their practice is also does obstetrics, they do gynecology as well. So that's anything to do with women's health and the whole reproductive system. And their focus is more on the pathophysiology of it. So it does tend to be quite medicalized, and they have a much larger workload. You know, they don't have the time and the capacity to have hour-long appointments with you and discuss, you know, what should you eat and how does it feel, and oh, I'm feeling a little bit nauseous, and oh, I've got a backache and everything. It's generally a 15-minute appointment. Check the scan, check the results, everything okay? Yeah, sure, great. Tick, 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 tick. And certainly when it comes to, you know, labor takes a long time, so they're not going to sit there and hold your hand and rub your back and mop your brow. So it is a very, very different system. They're working with much larger numbers, and they also very, realistically speaking, risk averse, because it's, you know, they've got liability and they work generally in hospital groups. Hospital groups have big law things. So things have shifted a lot. I mean, in South Africa, if we're talking about South Africa, our current cesarean section rate is in excess of 75%, which is actually horrific.
Yeah.
If we think about it, you know, as a natural life event, it's we know that that is skewed and unnecessary. So I don't want to go into that because it's a whole topic on its own.
Sure.
But it does mean that as parents and as adults, when you're in that, you want to know enough to be able to ask the right questions to see if that is the right outcome for you, and what is the outcome and what is the journey that you want to take. And just before we go on, I want to, you know, you brought up the fact that there's a lot of men watching today and that you will get a lot of questions from men. And actually, I work as much with men as I do with the women, because especially when it comes to what you're talking about, you know, immigration and moving, they're going to look at it from a very different perspective. And what they want is to make sure that their family is safe and happy, and that they're able to find whatever it is, the services that they would have found at home, can they still have that abroad? But until you're actually pregnant, you don't know what those services are. You don't know what the questions that you're asking are.
Yeah.
And actually, in my book, in the first chapter, it opens with a couple that I visited who had just arrived in Oman, and they were living the dream. He had got this amazing job, and they were going to build their little nest egg, and they were so excited, you know, scared but excited. And within 2 weeks, their furniture hadn't even arrived. I mean, when I did the home visit, she was sitting on a deck chair in this empty, large marble lounge with no furniture and a couple of boxes of goods, and just absolutely devastated because she found out that she was pregnant, and all she wanted to do was get on the plane and go home. Sure. Because that was not how she saw this journey unfolding. You know, they were going to build their nest egg and then go home and have babies. And he was standing at the door, kind of like looking from me to her like a little tennis match. And I could see in his eyes, he was like, you've got to do something because I want this job and I want to make this happen. And she's looking at me to say, tell me that it's going to be okay. Sure. You know, so there's so many aspects that you need to consider. And, you know, pregnancy is a 9-month journey.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's so much that can happen in that time. And I think that's the big thing, is that it's an unfolding journey. And you generally don't start asking those questions until you're in it. But if you are thinking of immigrating, you want to know that there are support systems in place that can guide you when you are in that situation. You know, what do we need to look at? What is important? And what do we need in place to be able to make this the most incredible, because it is a miraculous, amazing thing in your life. It's not a medical event, and it shouldn't be seen as one. It shouldn't be something that sends you into a tailspin of panic and fear. It should be something that we're having a baby. This is amazing. We are bringing a baby we are creating a family. So whether you're in your home country or you're on your way to somewhere, or you've just landed, or you're actually settled in that new country, what are we going to do to continue this amazing adventure that we are on of becoming parents?
So let's quickly unpack this a little bit. I mean, yes, during lockdown, virtual worlds became a reality in a lot of households. When did you start doing midwifery on a virtual, platform, if I can call it that? Secondly, I think, current perceptions out there. I mean, for me, I was also under the perception that midwifery was only at childbirth. And what you're talking about now is this journey, like you're saying, is a 9-month journey. So it's not just things. So, in my mind, I can understand a lot of conversations through the 9 months that could be held virtually. In the world of, okay, now I'm going into labor, so once again, double-barreled questions. When did you go into this virtual world of doing what you do? And then, secondly, do you find that it really helps people, specifically expats, going, rather having a conversation with you than having a conversation with someone else in the place that they're in at the moment, specifically at childbirth stage?
I think it's more about the pregnancy stage, because there's so many decisions that you're faced with in pregnancy, especially if you are in a foreign environment, And generally what I find is that the moment you find out you're pregnant, you start thinking about, where am I going to have my baby? But there's actually so many stages that you need to go through before you get to where you're going to have your baby. And there's so much time to change. And, you know, as you say, and my experience as well, is that the first thing most couples do is look for an obstetrician and gynecologist, and they want the best and the most amazing doctor in that area. So who will generally at the first visit say, I don't actually want to see you until after 12 weeks anyway, which is when they find me and I say, great, you don't need to see them until after 12 weeks, but here's what you do need to do. You know, you need to get these blood tests done, these scans done. This is what information you're going to find out from these scans. This is why that information is important. Once we've got all of that, we can find the doctor and then guide them through that consultation with the doctor. What questions should they be asking? What should they be looking for? If they come back and they say, right, that didn't really work for me, then we say, look, let's look at something else. And I explain the difference between the midwife model and the medical model so that they understand the difference, because, you know, not everybody wants the same thing. So I think the value, a lot of value that I bring is I'm able to bring a very balanced view of what is available and ask them and get them to ask themselves the right questions to see which outcome they want and which path they want to go down. Do they want to go down the highly techno path and obstetrician gynecologist, and then I'll guide them to find the care providers that will provide that, or do they want sort of, there's left and right. It's a bit like politics. Some people who want to have their baby completely unassisted on a beach under a tree, whatever, and there's others who want all the bells and whistles. There's no right and wrong, but it's guiding the couples to ask those questions and to do that deep introspection as to how they want their process to unfold. But there was another question you asked me that I wanted to answer. On
the tech side.
When did you start doing it?
When did I start doing it? Oh, right. So I started doing it actually over 10 years ago, purely because of the work that I was doing in the Middle East with so many expats. And the nature of expat life is that, you know, they moved on in a couple of years.
Sure.
And having established that relationship with me, you know, when they fell pregnant with their second baby, wherever they were, they would, give me a call and say, help, we're pregnant again. And, it just evolved. So I would support them, and I knew because having birthed and guided them through their pregnancy and birth before, I would say, right, this is what you need to do. And it also helped me grow my network of birth professionals around the world so that I could refer them to the right things. But it's all about asking the right questions more than anything else. So it started off with that. And then obviously through that, I started making small videos for them and answering their questions and realizing what challenges they were facing, which grew into creating an online course, which grew into creating a membership site, which grew into actually offering virtual consultations. And then I became the virtual midwife.
That's incredible.
It really did grow organically.
Yeah. So Karen, I mean, from my perspective, say, is that we obviously didn't think that, I don't know, I'm speaking for myself, my wife could have thought about midwives or not. I don't know if it was on her mind at all, but it just never came up as a topic on our side. But it's what you're offering is great, because you're giving people options about what they can do. And like you said, giving birth should be more of an experience than what we are actually, from my perspective, maybe being robbed of going through the normal processes of a gynecologist or something like that. It does feel like there is obviously more to it. And looking back in the old days of how people used to do it, what you're doing, you're giving people the option to do that. So that was just a statement. So my question for you is, how will this work? Say, for instance, we have a couple in our program. They are going to the States in, say, 6, 7 months, 8 months time, and they are pregnant at the moment. And yes, they don't want to necessarily go to a hospital, build a new relationship with someone there. They want to follow your program. Talk us through how this will work, from an introduction to an actual delivery, if you can.
Okay, sure. So the way that it works is that we establish a relationship with a virtual call, because I'm assuming that they're in another country.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a brief history, and ideally what they're going to do if we have that relationship and we decide that we're going to work together is that we work together, and it's a monthly thing where I will chat to them twice a month for the duration of their pregnancy. We will schedule in Zoom calls just like this.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we speak, depending on what stage of pregnancy they're at, I'm guiding them as to what to expect, both for, physically in the pregnancy, what she's going to be feeling, what's normal, what she should be looking for if she experiences this, is that okay, all of that. So that I'm also sharing with them the information that I have on my membership site that they can work through in their own time in between our calls. I'm also available to them 24/7 via WhatsApp, so that if they do have any sort of wake up at 2 a.m, oh, is this okay? They pop me a message. If it's urgent, they'll call me so that I can say, yes, this is fine. It's expected. It's normal, because most of the little aches and pains and things that you do have are normal, but you've never had them before. So it's just that guidance and reassurance. And obviously I need your history, and I need to know you on that level. Like, I can't just have one random person calling me at 2 a.m. and saying I've got this. I have a full history, so I know.
I was going to phone you.
So I've got that history. I'm able to offer that to level of 24/7 support. And then as we go through that journey, I'm going to discover what it is that they're looking for and guide them to find the right people and the right team. It's creating their birth team on the ground. I'm a member of that birth team, but I'm guiding them to either find the right obstetrician, gynecologist where they live, or the right midwife to look at. Do they want to have a home birth? Do they want to have a hospital birth? Are there birthing centers where they live? What is the difference between a hospital birth, a home birth, a birthing center? What's the difference between seeing a gynecologist and a midwife? And what is it that they want to create? And then I will guide them to find that wherever it is that they live. So I'm not doing the birth, and I'm not doing those antenatal appointments, but they will feed back to me the results that they get. I will have access to their scans, their blood results, and all of that. So I can guide them and reassure them, yes, that's perfect. You're on the right track. We're good here. We're good here. You need to go here. And if anything is outside of the norm, I also work in quite a big locally when I'm working face-to-face. I do bring in quite a multidisciplinary approach. I work with chiropractors and whatever it is, to make sure that we're keeping the pregnancy on track. But when you feel safe and secure that you're doing all the things that you need to be doing to be reassured that your pregnancy is normal and there's nothing that needs checking on, you can really enjoy it. You can relax into the process. And I'll also guide them to find local communities, as well as my online community, because obviously I have quite a busy online community. So that's lovely that they're able to connect with those people virtually, but also finding face-to-face communities wherever it is that they are, and helping them to establish that relationship to be able to have a really positive, enjoyable, and empowering birth experience, and guiding them through that. And so, I mean, and then I'll generally work with them until 6 weeks after the baby's born, because after the baby comes home, that's when, things really change. And I'm a breastfeeding consultant as well. So generally those twice weekly calls become daily, and the 24/7 becomes 24/7 support, so that I can really guide them through that. And once again, referring, saying, right, I think you need to bring somebody in. But, even consultations that like a lactation consultant, you'd think, how can you help a baby to breastfeed online virtually? It's kind of, it happens, I get the husband to hold the camera so that I can see what's going on, and I look at how the baby's sucking, and I do this and I do that, and it's incredibly effective. So I can't do a birth online, although it has happened, but that isn't what I promote. It's not what I do. So I'm not doing the birth, but there are couples who do fly me in, and then I would fly in 2 weeks before their due date and stay with them until 2 weeks after. So it's a month-long program. And those
Wow.
I only do that for couples that I've worked with throughout pregnancy. So that is an option as well. Obviously, it's not something I only do 3 of those a year, but some people do choose to do that. And then I either come in as their midwife and do the birth with them at home, or I come in and they still have a hospital birth, but I'm there as their birth support, or almost like a doula. So once again, it depends what kind of birth experience they want.
Sure.
Corin, so, you know, from my side, I mean, I remember when my wife was pregnant, and with many friends and family around us, it's a very emotional stage of a woman's life. Emotions are up and down and all over the place. Now you combine that with the factor that you're pregnant and you're immigrating and you're going to be in a new country. You know, mom's not there, whatever the case may be. That being said, we've even in the last while, I mean, I've got close friends of ours that had a baby during this COVID time, you know, challenging times. I mean, do you experience that, you know, through that emotional stages and like having COVID or having this immigration side, that it is really advisable that someone contacts yourself, and you can also just walk them through the feelings and the emotional aspects and all that sort of stuff. You know, I mean, there's a lot of combination in these questions that I'm asking you, but I think that, you know, realistically speaking, you've got to admit that there's going to be highs and lows, and more pronounced in the circumstances that we're dealing with at the moment. You know, and I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind giving couples just a little bit of a snippet about what your advice would be to them facing challenges like COVID or immigration while being pregnant.
I would definitely, obviously, recommend having somebody, whether that's me or somebody else, who has the skills and the expertise to guide them through that, because you need one person that you can really trust, you know. And while that will generally be your mother or a close family member, your mother or a close family member is personally involved in you and is unable to see the bigger picture.
Sure.
So I think what I bring is the fact that I'm looking at you as a person, but I'm also looking at the bigger picture. Where are you? Where are you going? And
Sure.
guiding you to create this. Say, this is a journey. It's not something I can just say, do this, do this, do this. And while I do include checklists and cheat sheets in my book and everything, it's not something where you can just send off and say, these are the things that you need to do, because pregnancy in its nature is dynamic and evolving. So, you know, at every stage, you're experiencing new physical sensations. And as you say, it's an emotional journey of highs and lows. And then you've got the external environmental factors that are now different and strange that you need to manage. So I'm guiding you on all of those aspects and all of those levels. So reassuring you about the changes in physical, being there for you to hear you and listen and guide you through the emotional ups and downs, and also to know whether there's something untoward. Is it, you know, more down than up? And do we need to bring in some extra help and support there? And then guiding you to manage the external environmental factors to create that experience that you want. So you need that person, because it's about confidence. You know, if we don't feel confident in ourselves and in our environment, how can you possibly relax into it and enjoy it? Then you're in a constant state of fear and anxiety, which results in raised cortisol levels, which impacts the baby. It just doesn't allow for an enjoyable pregnancy. So, you know, there's already so many stresses, and immigrating is a stressful process, and moving home is a stressful process. So you don't want to add all uncertainty of pregnancy, because there is a lot. Online is Google, you know, one of the typical things is something called round ligament pain, which is a common discomfort of pregnancy that most women experience anytime from sort of 21 to 30 weeks of pregnancy. And it's a sharp shooting pain in the groin, sort of along the bikini line, which is alarming. You know, you will go online to look up sharp shooting pain in the groin, and before you know it, you're down the rabbit hole of you're going to die and you're going to lose your baby.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got the support of me, I'm expecting that WhatsApp around about that time. And I've either prepared you for it, or when I get it, I could say, right, you know, what's this, that, it's round ligament pain, you're all good. So I think it's also about guiding them to be discerning in what it is that they're reading and watching and consuming online, because there is so much that will really make you think that, I mean, if you look online, generally, it's like pregnancy is a death sentence, and it's fraught with danger and things that need to be managed. And they while they do, they need to be managed in a way that allows you to actually, oh, this is part of it. This is normal. This is okay. Yes. Oh, okay. I understand why I'm getting that. You know, the reason I'm getting that is my ligaments are stretching because my belly is expanding and my baby is growing. So all those discomforts of pregnancy are really reassuring signs that all is well. But if you don't have anybody to explain it, and you don't see the bigger picture and know what's happening inside of your body, and you go online, then it's just it's a very anxious and scary journey.
You're 100% right. I mean, we were researching the other day for someone a thing of swollen ankles, and while it could just be the fact that you've been on your legs all day, you know, Google will put you in a place where you think you're having a heart attack and you must get to the hospital within 2 minutes, you know. So I hear exactly what you're saying. And I think that while Google can be one's best friend, it can also be one's worst enemy.
Absolutely. And, you know, swollen ankles, I don't know if that person was pregnant, but that is very common in pregnancy.
It was Trevor.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're still with us, Trevor.
Yeah, the good news is it wasn't a heart attack.
Yeah, most things lead to brain tumors on Google.
Karen, I tell you what, if there's a lot Lomiki in my family, I'm definitely phoning you. But
fantastic.
Yeah, but you know, it's going to have to be a MacGyver baby. But
I was just going to say, Lenny, if there's a lot Lomiki in your family or my family, we're going to be needing more than Karen.
No, exactly. Yeah, we might need a lawyer as well, but I mean, that's fine. But
I also sorry, can I quickly just jump in, because you mentioned COVID as well, and I didn't bring that into it.
Yes.
So I just do want to touch on that as well, because obviously things have changed. And I think it goes back to exactly the same thing. Is it depends where they are and what's actually happening. Like, I'm supporting a lady in Texas at the moment. So, you know, it's completely different there, the way, obviously, that's being managed by their president. So helping her to manage the her environment and manage her birth accordingly. But I'm also focused on the pregnancy. So what's happening where she is in the country and how they're managing it there, and how am I going to guide her to be safe from COVID and still have a safe birth experience because of that. Because everybody's managing it differently. I mean, even in South Africa, every hospital group is managing it differently, and people are asking different questions. And I mean, I have been so much busier, not just virtually, but I'm also getting a lot more requests for home births, for people who don't want to go into the hospital environment because of COVID. So for me, it's actually lovely. It's a silver lining, because people are actually asking different questions. And all of a sudden, the hospital environment that they thought was so safe and the best place to be is actually not. And that is great, in my opinion. So
very good. Very good. Karen, I think that, you know, we can chat for quite a long time, but I think our time has run out. I think, if people are looking for you, how will people get hold of you to get their first appointment going? How would people get?
My website is thevirtualmidwife.com. So very easy. Just don't forget the THE, because there's another site called just Virtual Midwife. So thevirtualmidwife.com. And on there, you will see a list of all the services that are offered. There's a button that says contact me. A little form that they will fill in that will give me a brief history where, you know, what stage of pregnancy they're at, and we'll take them to an online calendar where they can book what I call a tell me more call, and we just have an opportunity to discuss and see what it is that they need. And while I have a couple of basic packages that work for most people, obviously depending, I create bespoke packages which can include pretty much anything. Within reason.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Karen, wonderful to have had you today, and thank you for your time. It's really been insightful, and it opened up our eyes most certainly to a lot new things, a lot more. So thank you for your time, and thank you that we can have the space where we can talk to you as well as everybody out there that is looking to immigrate, because I think it's very important for people, specifically if they're in the stage of their lives of looking at having kids. Immigration is a time process. That's the gray area in immigration. How long does it take you? Our process can take up to 18 months, for example. And, if you fall pregnant in the last stages of your pregnancy, in the last stages of your immigration, you'd want to know what to do and where to go to. So I think that it was very valuable. So thank you for your time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Well, and from our side, I think it's just what has opened up my eyes is that, you know what, there are opportunities out there. I mean, for what you've done, Karen, I mean, people that are immigrating, that are taking their experiences and their stuff with them, look for opportunities in your field and see how you are guided in starting businesses, something like this. And COVID has opened up the door for people to really expand their thoughts about business and how it's done, be a disruptor.
Yes. I do tend to disrupt a bit, but yeah, for me, all I want to do is to allow expats to really embrace pregnancy and birth as part of their expat adventure, because it is an adventure, it's a big step that you're taking, and for me to enable them to do that. But thank you so much for having me.
Cool. It was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody. You guys next week Thursday. Thanks,
Ciao. Bye-bye.